All right. Good morning. Happy Saturday, folks. I see folks starting to tap in. And so I'm going to give us a few minutes as some of our community members and viewers from all these different spaces get it tapped in and connected to this conversation. I am super excited, as usual. I'm always excited to share information that I feel is valuable to the community in general as a whole. Yeah, so today I am in my official organizing capacity. So, for you all that usually be rocking with me, when I'm doing different lives and from different spaces, today's hat, hey, it's the social justice hat, which, I'm always social justice, y'all. So, but this is Tony McNeil, Faith in the Valley, 100%. 501c3 nonpartisan, yes. And so we don't get to tell you who to vote for. We don't get to tell you who we like. Whoo, I'm gonna be real careful. I got my face on right. I'm gonna smile when I talk about everybody. And my folks with me today gonna help me keep it real. Because we talking about the power of a district attorney. Ooh, and that makes me excited, and it's also scary. So, today we are here to share with you some real serious information. We need to have a real conversation with folks in the community. And so, I'm asking that for those of you that log in, that you would share this information, share this video, text some folks, make sure that everybody that you can is tapped into this conversation because it's going to be very informative. It is extremely important information. I am today kicking it with some of my crew that I have had the pleasure of meeting. And so I just want to popcorn it around really quick and allow everybody to introduce themselves. Let me see, what's a good check-in question, I think. I want to know what superhero or superpowers that you would have in this moment. So, Alejandra, I would like you to come off of mute, introduce yourself, and tell us what's your superpower, girl.
Are you asking what our superpower is or what superpower we want?
What you want? What is it, or what do you want? It's yours to own.
Ooh, that's a hard one. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. My name is Alejandra Gutierrez. I use she, her pronouns. I've been a community organizer for about 13 years now, and I started youth organizing in youth justice world about 9 years ago. So I'm really excited to be here with you all. I am a legal fellow with the National Center for Youth Law's Youth Justice Initiative and also an attorney. So let's see. I think the superpower that I have is community organizing. There is a lot of power in that. And like you mentioned, Tony, that is something that never goes away. No matter what we do, that, those tools and that approach is always within us. What superpower I would want to have is probably time travel. I actually just had a conversation with my family about this a few nights ago, and we got into a deep discussion about time travel. And I think it'd be great to be able to visit the past and, talk to my ancestors and those that came before us, and also glean into the future as well. We are attempting to solve a lot of issues that are going to impact future generations. So I think time travel is something that I would be so interested in doing and wish we could, but obviously cannot. So I will popcorn it to
Oh.
Mississippi.
And Mia City, I just want to make sure, Alejandra, that we give props to your ear art. Yes, sis. That's like beautiful. I love ear art, and your ear art is fire.
Thank you so much. It was a gift from a very close friend, and they are handmade from Mexico. Thank you.
Sweet.
Cool. Thank you, Alejandra, for being the first one to introduce yourself. My name is Misotic Zaragoza. I was born and raised in Stockton. My daytime job, I'm a marketing and student outreach specialist at San Joaquin Delta College. I'm also part of a Chicano youth organization called Nopal, also based in Stockton. And I'm also the co-founder of the San Joaquin ACLU chapter, in which one of my partners is Marshall, and we're grateful to have him in our spaces as well. And my superpower, It would be to fly, because these gas prices are ridiculous. So if I can just like fly for free and not have to pay like these $6 gas prices, that would be great. And I'll pass it on to Marshall.
Thank you, thank you. Super honored to be here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marshall Arnwine, and I work for the ACLU of Northern California. I serve in the role of legal policy advocate for civil rights, where I specialize in police practices and district attorney accountability. In my role, I continue the legacy of Dr. King by being a guardian of fairness, justice, equality, and promoting civil rights and civil liberties for all Californians. So I'm really excited to be in this role. Been working at the ACLU for 2 years now, and I'm loving the opportunity to connect with everyone here on this panel and everyone in the San Joaquin County. As far as superpower, I would say mine is restoration. I enjoy solving problems that no one wants to touch. So those real deep-rooted issues of racism, inequalities, injustices, I want to go to those problems. And I really enjoy that because I want to be a bridge between the communities that's impacted and those who are in power, whether it's in Congress, law enforcement, district attorneys. And I want to be a bridge to both communities so that we can learn, live, love, and grow together. As far as the superpower that I want is the art of communication and listening, because I really think that if you can communicate what it is that you want and be able to listen to what other people are saying, then I think that can be a great opportunity to learn from other people. I think at the end of the day, we all want fairness, equality, and justice, but sometimes we aren't listening to each other, and that sometimes get in the way of communication. So those are the superpowers that I would love to have and gain. And I will kick it back over to you, Tony.
All right, y'all. So what? We got time travel, and we got air travel, and we got communication, telecommunication. Yeah, cause see, I'm gonna ask later on to that, cause I like to, I want to know. Well, one, I want people to just have COVID and highlight on their head. You know what I'm saying? So just say COVID. If you positive, that way I can, you know what I'm saying? You may not see it. I see that you yes and no. So I would like to have that, highlight COVID on your head. You know what I'm saying? That I love the thought of that. That makes me happy. Um, but yes, I would love to know whether or not someone is telling the truth or not. Like, just have something like if they start talking and they're lying, like, that doot, doot, doot. I just want some kind of something when they come in my meal. So thick, I ain't playing. I'm so serious. Anyway, today we are going to be talking about the power of the district attorney. Yeah, the power of a district attorney. And so, really quick, just anybody that just wants to power. What is power? Just the for like not I'm not even asking what's power. We're saying the power of the district attorney. When you hear the word power, what comes to mind, you guys? Just anyone, just your thoughts. I know we weren't even prepared for that, but I feel like we need to unpack that a little bit. Anybody?
The words that come to mind are impact, influence, and responsibility.
Mm. Impact, influence, responsibility. Yeah. Okay. So power, the impact of a district attorney, the influence of a district attorney, the responsibility of a district attorney. Anybody else? Any other words that come to mind when you hear the power of a district attorney?
Control. That was one word
Mm.
that popped up for me initially, and it piggybacks off of what Alejandro was already saying about influence. If you have control, you have the power to influence those that you can control.
Mm. Man. Okay. So control. Mio Sotik, anything that comes to your mind, sweetheart, when you hear the power?
Yeah, Marshall took my word too. I was gonna say control, because being able to have that control over another individual or a group of individuals as well, and being able to make movements, even without like their permission or without their influence, or you can just make movements without anyone being able to tell you anything. So it's like that concept of control.
Yeah. And then Esther, I like that you put responsibility. And then also went a little deeper and took it one step further and said, and or the abuse of responsibility. So when we hear the word power, we're saying that there's a lot of influence. Power is something that is harnessed, but if not used responsibly, can be used abusively. So it's then very important then for us to unpack what is that power that the district attorney has, and then what is our role when it comes to how that power is actually used, and harnessed in the communities in which this elected official, y'all did hear that, right? Y'all caught that, right? Elected, not hired, elected, meaning the people choose who the district attorney is that gets to sit in this seat of power. So before we get into really deep discussion, I want to share a video. I'm going to share a video, and I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to this video in the chat because I want you guys to be able to see it even at a later date. But I'm going to share the video. We're going to watch it together, and then we're going to discuss what it is that we see and hear based on the power of the district attorney.
Hey, John Legend here. Lately, I've joined the fight to end mass incarceration, and I've been meeting with many important figures involved with the criminal justice system across the country. But there is one group I want to talk about today: district attorneys. Within a single role, they have the power to decide who gets criminal charges filed against them, the severity of those charges, or if charges get filed at all. And this covers everything from theft, drug crimes, environmental crime, violent crimes, and more severe cases such as rape or murder. These are the responsibilities of your district attorney. Your initial reaction might be that justice is being fairly served. But understand that despite state and federal laws, the influential power they carry allows them to prioritize or deprioritize how those laws are enforced and who they are enforced against. They literally have the power to send people to prison for life and send people to death row. Armed burglary by a teen is a crime, but the DA decides whether that young person is thrown away or treated through rehabilitation. In a single decision, free from accountability, DAs can funnel people into the prison system, trapping them in the revolving door of mass incarceration. Equally so, they can give them a second chance. These DAs represent our voice, but most of our DA's actions don't represent what we believe. Let's take a look at Proposition 47, which reduced the penalties for certain nonviolent offenses. In California, the majority voted to pass the proposition, but only 2 of the 58 district attorneys at the time agreed. With all the power the DA holds, they can operate in a bubble, and if not aligned with the people, can undermine the winning proposition. When no one is watching, there is no accountability. The district attorney is an elected position which represents your interests in the criminal justice system. It's up to you to hold them accountable, which starts by getting to know them. The power you have starts with just saying, hey.
Yeah, that's some good stuff right there. I've watched that video 4 times just this morning. And so it's saying that the DA gets to determine who is in violation. They get to determine and set really the narrative on who actually is the criminal or has operated in criminal activity. Second chances, oh my God. And that we get to determine who that person of power gets to be based on our own self-interest. So with that being said, I want to lean into something really quick. So, Angelica, can you give us a little bit of history surrounding the district attorney?
Yes, and I'm assuming you mean Alejandra, which is interesting because Angelica is my sister's name, and everyone calls me Angelica, even if they don't know her. So that's weird. She may be watching. Hi, if you all are watching.
You know what she did? I just see, and I said it because look, Angelica. So is that? I don't know if that's your sister, but
it's my sister.
I see.
Yeah.
I see her name.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I can, I think the video does a great job at describing the role of the DA in a very brief way. I can go a little bit more into what power the DA has in the different stages of the criminal legal system. Just a brief kind of historical context. The district attorney offices, prosecutor offices in this country began back in the 1600s. And prosecutors, district attorneys were private government officials, so they were appointed as government officials. It wasn't until the 1830s that they acquired elective status. So it's important to kind of set the context to show that these offices and the system has been in place for hundreds of years. So a lot of the challenges that we are identifying, are going to take a while to solve, but that's why we're here. We have to inform the community about them. So the criminal legal system is the system that is in place in our society that is responsive and deals when situations occur out in the community where something has happened that is considered to be a crime. So the district attorney, which is the person that we are going to elect at this election, is responsible for that office. They are responsible for overseeing and managing and directing the practices, the policies, and the programs of that office. And aside from the district attorney, that's the head of the office, there are hundreds of district attorneys across the state and many in San Joaquin County that work directly on criminal cases. So when a person is accused of committing a crime, again, the key word allegedly, because in this country there's a presumption of innocence, so people are innocent until proven guilty. When a person is accused of a crime, the district attorneys are the ones who charge people with the crimes, and they are tasked with proving whether that crime did occur. The public defender is there to defend the person that is navigating the system, making sure that they have their constitutional rights protected. So the district attorneys, as the video mentioned, they decide what charges to bring to people, what do they want to prosecute, and this can have a big impact on the lives of individuals. There could be situations where a district attorney can choose between a misdemeanor or a felony, which we know carry very different consequences. And even though there are standards of proof that district attorneys need to follow to decide whether there is enough evidence to charge somebody with a certain crime, the key word is discretion. They still have a huge wealth of discretion at every stage of the process. The charging can influence the sentencing. So if a person is going to be incarcerated, district attorneys also have a lot of power to decide sentences, even though there are minimum sentencing laws. Again, deciding what to charge can lead to a certain sentence. District attorneys also oversee investigative work. So there are detectives and investigators that are looking into evidence, and district attorneys are able to decide what evidence makes it into court. We know that there are several issues with some of the evidence that is presented into court. Is it reliable? Is it credible? So district attorneys have to be very critical to determine what they bring to court against a person. They also have a huge role to play in plea deals. So a plea deal is basically when a district attorney gives a person a quote unquote deal, and this person pretty much admits guilt to a certain a crime with a certain consequence, and that means that they will not go to trial. And it's very important to note that 95% of cases in this country, of criminal cases, are resolved through a plea deal. That means that only 5% of people actually go to trial. So again, the district attorneys are able to determine who to give a deal to, what kind of plea deal to give, and they have a lot of power in the negotiations that are a part of that. They also are involved in jury selection. So it's important to make sure that our juries are comprised of well-rounded, diverse individuals of our communities. Public defenders are also able to influence jury selection. But again, district attorneys have a lot of say and influence and power in all of these different stages. Another area that the district attorneys are responsible for overseeing are victim and survivor services. So what services and programs are the district attorney's office going to have to support those who have experienced some type of harm in the community? And then lastly, in our criminal legal system, we have a separate juvenile legal system that deals with young people under 18. Even though those offices have their own supervising attorney, the district attorney that we are electing also is responsible to oversee those practices. So again, there's a lot that, they are able to do. We're going to get a little bit more into, why there's an imbalance of power. Resources have a lot to do with that. But again, it's important for community to know that their practices and their values and the programs and policies that they implement will have a direct impact on individual lives, on families, and our community as a whole.
I was trying, as you were naming off all of these different things, I was trying to fix my face. However, I wasn't able to. And so because of the seriousness of this, so we're saying, so power, this seat of power, that's not an understatement. That is not an understatement. I'm trying to make sure I'm clear, right? Like Marshall, is this seat of, that's a lot of power for one seat. What happens if it's a DA that has their own self-interest and not the interest of the community? I mean, is it important that the DA then have the heart and the interest of the community? I mean, what do you guys think on that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because we're talking about an elected official, which means at the end of the day, they should be representing the community because we're voting them in. And so that's the point. That's what I was going to bring up when you were talking about power, because right now most of them do have their own self-interest, and that's how they're using their power. And what we're trying to do now with the work that we're doing is shifting that power. So like people power, and having the community gain power and empower the community to influence these kinds of decisions, because it is, it's they represent us, like we actually elected them. So they should be listening to the community and speaking for the community, and not just for themselves and for their donors' interests.
And y'all forgive me, I'm looking down because I got people sending me stuff in Messenger and text messages behind this this conversation. So here's what I want to know. We're going to dig, like I said, a little bit deeper. So you first, Father Marshall, is there anything that you want to add to what Alejandra has already laid out for us?
Yeah, it's just the accountability aspect that the community has. If you ever watch a criminal trial, before it begins, or any type of criminal court proceeding, the judge asks both attorneys to introduce themselves, essentially. And when the district attorney introduces themselves, they'll say the name John Doe. They'll say John Doe representing the people. So that's really important. So the people are the people in that particular county that they represent every single day. So us as community members are the people, and we want to make sure that we elect people in office that will serve the interests of our county and for our community members. So accountability is really important, and knowing who your DA is important so that you can communicate different issues to your DA. I know we're going to talk more about that later, so I don't want to jump ahead, but it's really important to know who your DA is.
I'm really torn, you guys. I'm sitting here really struggling, and I feel ripped because I'm hearing that we are saying that the district attorney is someone that we choose, that we elect, we vote for that person, and that they introduce themselves in court as John Doe in representation of the people. However, part of my heart here is really ripped, because in most cases, my personal experience with a district attorney was not a representation of me or my people. And I don't know if you guys can resonate with, or understand what it is that I'm saying. If so, you can come off mute, and just tap into that, because yeah. Mio Sotik, I seen you reach, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to. I mean, like,
I was fixing my charger, but yeah, I'll go off of that. I mean, it's a huge issue across the board with elected officials, in general, through this government system, and it's heartbreaking to see. And that's why we're trying to, like I said, empower the community to bring in their voice, and continue to bring in their voice. And if they don't listen, like, host direct action protests, that's also part of our rights as well, because they need to listen at the end of the day, because it's really heartbreaking, it's not only heartbreaking, but it's taking lives at the same time. And so yeah, that's something that I would like to add. Thanks, Sony.
mm-hmm. So which communities should be most leaned into a conversation such as this? Alejandra, do you have any? I know that you work with youth, and so why is it important that the youth are leaned into this, or parents of youth?
Yeah, I can definitely touch on that. So, like I mentioned earlier, we have a separate juvenile legal system that works with young people who are under 18. It's very important for the district attorney to really think critically about the differences between young people and adults. So we need to make sure that we have somebody in that position that is going to believe in science, and that's going to believe in adolescent development. So brain science tells us that our brain does not develop fully until age 25 or 26. So that means that we have a lot of young people in our communities that are caught up in the system for different situations. And it's important to really, dig deep into the root cause of why these behaviors play out. Sometimes young people are just acting, in like a youthful way. Sometimes youthful behavior, teenage behavior is criminalized when it really shouldn't be. There should be another response to that type of behavior. And then if a young person is engaged in some type of behavior that is harmful, then we have to really think why. Why is this young person, engaging in this behavior? And there are many, many reasons why young people are in these positions. We're talking about a lot of youth of color who are criminalized in the community. Sometimes they may be criminalized in schools. A lot of young people with disabilities. In fact, 1 out of 3 youth who are arrested every year have a disability. It's estimated that at least 90% of youth in the juvenile legal system have experienced a traumatic event in their lives. And so it's important to look at what young people are entering the system and why. And then looking at that, we can really think towards a different approach for young people. So at our organization, the Youth Justice Initiative is really working towards building community-based alternatives that are going to be out in the community, that are going to be health and healing based, having a response that is more appropriate and rehabilitative to young people, so that we end cycles of incarceration and cycles of victimization. So to answer your question, why young people need to be involved, it's important for youth as the new generation to be involved in different aspects of their community, including the justice system, and making sure that their parents are involved as well. Because, as adults, we can all talk about this all day, every day, but if we are not listening to the young people and their experiences, then we're not going to reach the solutions that we need to see.
So I believe, am I hearing you say then that, and if so, how do we lean into that more? That the district attorney's role is significant to the school to prison pipeline?
Yeah, you can say that. I think any stakeholder that is a part of law enforcement may contribute in some way to the school to prison pipeline.
So now hold on, and if anybody can jump in at any point. So y'all, this is a conversation. So this is like any thoughts that come to mind, just come off of mute. Say, hey, I got something to say. But as you're saying that, you're saying is the DA and law enforcement, are they interconnected?
Go ahead, Marshall.
I was just kind of pondering, thinking it probably depends on who you ask, honestly, because I know there's people that have the perspective that there are two separate entities, and they have different functions, but there is some interconnection between the two. For example, if a person is accused of committing a crime and law enforcement agency arrests that individual, take them to jail, and then from there, the DA then decides what charges to bring for that particular individual. So from that perspective, you can kind of see how there are two separate roles, but they kind of play hand in hand. So I do think it's important to know that the DA kind of has the ultimate decision making as far as deciding if a person is going to get that second chance to get some type of restorative justice, whether it's through drug rehabilitation programs or some type of community service, or the district attorney can decide whether, we're talking about youth, if this young person will enter the juvenile legal system. So from my perspective, I do think they're separate, but they do intersect. And I think that's important because what we've seen in the last 2 years with the uprising of the Black Lives Matter movement and seeing the police brutality, I know that there's a lot of momentum behind police accountability. But if we really want to hold law enforcement accountable, it's ultimately up to the district attorney to bring those charges against officers who commit those misconducts. So we can definitely continue to protest, continue to call out all law enforcement officials. But when it comes to that accountability piece in court, holding these law enforcement officers accountable, it's up to the district attorney whether to bring those charges or not. So that's why I like to say it's separate so that we can understand the two functions of it, but they do intersect.
While you're saying that, I am looking at I'm looking at the San Joaquin County 2021 budget, because that's me. I do that kind of stuff, and because I'm trying to determine, okay, so what's the interplay here? And man, I mean, $416 million, an increase of $29.9 million. It makes up over 50%, y'all. Okay, 49. No, yeah, over 50 of the general budget for the San Joaquin County. Public safety. Now, what falls under the category of public safety? First is the sheriff. The sheriff's budget is the highest of that pocket. And then the district attorney is the second highest of that pocket. And then the coroner is the third in that pocket. And when you get down to the very bottom, where it says you're innocent until proven guilty, bottom, right, is the public defender. They get like pennies to the dollar. So they get a small fraction of cents, you guys, when it comes to the budget, then the district attorney. And so I struggle with that, because there is no seat of power for the people that are supposed to represent the community that is innocent until proven guilty. However, there's so much power when it comes to the individuals that that represent, and I'm going to say this term and I'm going to throw it out there heavy and hard, but I'm throwing it out there loose. The criminal. When I say criminal, and I want us to be honest, come off of mute. When I say criminal, who does society see? Come off of mute. We talking now.
They see me, honestly. Whenever you hear some type of suspect description, young Black male between the ages of 21 and 30, 5'10", over 6 feet. I unfortunately fit all those descriptions when it comes to suspect details when law enforcement agencies are looking for a particular individual. And media has a big part of that as well too. The movies that are played, the TV shows, it perpetuates the continued stigma that Black men and women are predators, people of color are dangerous, and those things can have a significant role in implicit bias as well, which simply means that you're not actively trying to be prejudiced, but based on your thoughts and your experience of interacting with people, you just automatically assume that they're dangerous based on what you've seen, even if you never had interaction with a person of color. So yes, it's super dangerous. It's super, after this pause, it could be scary at times. I often think about like my just personal experience with law enforcement and, getting pulled over when I was a youth and, sitting in the back of a police car, my car was searched for over an hour, being in handcuffs, all for having my lights turned off at night, which is supposed to be just a simple ticket violation. You're supposed to get a ticket and go on. But instead, I was subjected to this type of harassment because of the way I look, because of the neighborhood that I grew up in. I fit a quote unquote description, and that description led to police harassment. So it's super important to understand that when district attorneys have this discretion that Alejandra talked about earlier, district attorneys typically see a person as a problem well before they see him as a person. And that's a whole different discussion that we're going to have as well. But it's super important to think about.
What about you, Mia Sotik? What resonates and comes to mind or through your heart when you hear this?
For me, I just do not like the word criminal. I hate using the word crime as well. I feel like it's like a label put on people. Because at the end of the day, like, we should be believing in rehabilitation and being able to like believe that people can change and keep that in general within within our community. So like labeling criminals and crime and then seeing that like Marshall can depict those descriptions. I do not like that word. And for me, it connects back to the 13th Amendment, where it says that like they're abolishing slavery except as a punishment of crime. So that's where the whole concept of crime, that's when we had the whole prison boom from the very beginning, when the 13th Amendment came on. So that's when the actual label of criminals came about, and that's why a lot of Black men were put into the criminal system, and we have still continued within that cycle, and it hasn't ended. And so with that, like I said, I don't like using that word, because at the end of the day, we've all done small things that can consider us criminals. It could be jaywalking. That's also like it's a violation of something, but sometimes we like to not consider ourselves criminals because, we're not those people. But no, it's like, and I like that Marshall's brought up the media, because the media plays a huge role in creating that narrative of crime and criminals. And they really elevate that and blast that, and not in a good way. Because it's, at the end of the day, like Alejandra keeps emphasizing, innocent until proven guilty. And so when you're elevating these suspects, they haven't even gone through trial, and yet their whole persona has been deemed like their whole lives can be transformed just because you've seen them on TV and now they're considered dangerous, but they haven't even gone through the trial process for you even to determine what they did, if they even did it. But now people have a negative stigma behind them, and that's harmful to them, and it can affect them for the rest of their lives after that.
Yeah, this gets really heavy, and it gets really heavy fast, because I was in a space just recently, and I was watching a video, which I will not show today. However, I will post on my page, where there is this negative video that is attacking bail reform, saying that, crime is going up and shootings are going up, due to bail reform. And it's showing images of people like way back from, way back, even from Super Predator, when they had that narrative going. The issue is that there is a parallel that takes place when it comes to a narrative that is put out, who the criminal is. Society has a narrative that says that those that are undocumented are criminals. Alejandra, and so I'm talking to you now on this in Mil Soltic, because we don't talk about the role that the district attorney plays when it comes to even those who are undocumented, our undocumented siblings, that are being portrayed as criminals, and some of the things. So I want to know, does the DA have the power to actually shift that narrative before that person is sentenced? I see you're all shaking your head. So they have the power in court. Mil Soltik, are you gonna say something to that?
Yeah, I was just doing research on this morning. I wrote it down. So like some ways that they can influence is, like, let's say we have an undocumented street vendor, and the police are out there harassing them and trying to arrest them because they're illegally selling, and then they get funneled within the prison system, and then from there, that's when they have a higher chance of getting transferred to ICE. And so the district attorney can actually stop even those charges in general and make sure that they protect street vendors and stuff like that, and make sure that they don't actually get funneled into the jail system, prison system, to risk their own lives and getting transferred. That's one way that I can think of. I don't know if Alejandra can think of another way.
I think criminalization is a key word. I think experiences that people live through because of decisions that have been made by those in power and policies that have been passed by those in power. All of those decisions have created conditions that our people have to struggle through. Not having legal status is one of them. So I think there are a lot of human experiences that the system has criminalized, and being undocumented is one of those. There are many, many reasons why people try to migrate to this country. Sometimes it has to do with survival. And the system just doesn't, as a whole, acknowledge those historical contexts, doesn't acknowledge the root cause of these experiences. So I think a district attorney can definitely shift the narrative just by being understanding, get to know our communities, get to know why things are the way they are in our communities. And I do also want to uplift what Misotik was saying about language. Language is so, so important. That is why I haven't used words like defendant. I haven't used words like suspect. When we say crime, we say behavior that is considered a crime. So you're right, Misotik, that language in itself is powerful because the criminalization comes from that language. So I think there are a lot of immediate things that district attorneys can do, immediately. Once this person is in office, they can begin to shift narrative, shift language, and shift understanding of the human experiences of communities of color.
Yeah, and I just wanted to go. Sorry, Tony. I just wanted to go back to the concept of accountability, because at the end of the day, these officers are out here arresting people, and yet they have also created misconduct in which the district attorneys do not charge them for. So it's hypocritical. They're hypocrites, because it's like the same people that are supposed to be enforcing these laws and these crimes are committing the same thing, and yet they're not being held accountable, but they're actually putting people in jail for the same acts that they have committed. And so that goes back to the concept of accountability as well, and as to why the district attorney needs to be accountable in that space as well.
So now all you did was springboard me into where I was getting ready to go, which has to do with, so first we had to unpack criminal. We had to look at, what the narrative is when it comes to a criminal, because when you see criminal and you hear criminal, what you do not think of naturally, and I'm not saying this to offend anyone, is a white adult male. That's not the first image that comes to mind, or a white woman. That's not the first image that comes to mind. Media has really, really done and intentional. I believe that it's all succinct and intentional. A real job in creating a narrative that says that the criminal is a person of color, certain a Black man first, Latino man, undocumented criminal. In order to support some of the activities that have taken place in an unjust way. Now, when it comes to law enforcement violating the law, I'm using now language, right? I'm trying to be intentional with my language, because I looked up the role, and one of the responsibilities is a district attorney is responsible for the prosecution of criminal violations. So the key here is not it doesn't say that the district attorney is responsible for the prosecution of criminals. That's where we stop. We stop and say they're responsible to prosecute criminals. And let me put a face on that. And okay, Marshall, you're the criminal and the DA's job is to prosecute you. No, the district attorney's role and responsibility is to prosecute criminal violation of a law, a state law, or a local ordinance that has been put in place. AB 392, excessive use of force. So the district attorney's role is to ensure that I don't care who you are, if you violate the law, that you are prosecuted. And I struggle with whether or not we've really seen a good example of that. How do we hold the DA accountable to prosecuting those that are violating the law, whether or not they are law enforcement or not? How difficult is that?
It's extremely difficult. I say it's extremely difficult because it's multi-layered. So even if a district attorney did want to prosecute a police officer, there's this thing called qualified immunity that really protects officers from being prosecuted. And it really is it's a hindrance and it's an obstacle to accountability and to justice when it comes to police misconduct. But taking a step back, we first should, as community members, reach out, go to for San Joaquin County, go to Google, type in San Joaquin County District Attorney, go to the website, find that contact button, ask your district attorney, do you support the passage of AB 392 use of force, which changed the legal standard of when an officer can be held accountable for deadly shootings?
Wait, Marshall, you're saying that the community has a responsibility to actually engage the district attorney, because in communities of color, that is not what we don't think that we can.
Absolutely, we have to be engaged. I know it could be, we talked about this a little bit earlier, that we don't know our worth sometimes. And district attorneys are elected by the community, and we also have a part to play to influence these changes. So the DAs have a part to play and communities have a part to play as well. And while we're pushing DAs to be accountable, we also want to hold their feet to the fire based on their particular platforms. So if you see that they're running on a platform of they're going to hold police accountable, but then you see once they get elected, they're actually not doing it. You can say, hey, remember when you were running for DA, you said that you were going to do X, Y, and Z, but now you're not doing it. Like what's going on? So I think that's really, we're going to talk about it more later, is why it's important to read the candidates' platforms, see what issues they're promising before the elections, because this is an elected position. So they're kind of in a politician type role where they're saying what they want to do to get your vote. So this is the time now more than ever to have your voice be heard, because they're running to get your vote, and they're more likely to want to do what serves their and your interest to get your vote. Versus once they're already in office, it's much harder to push someone to do something once they've already gotten to the platform that they're trying to reach. So if you're in a position now, so we have the elections coming up June 7th, the primary elections, where it's going to be decided who's going to be the next district attorney here in San Joaquin County. Between now and then is really when you want to get your voices heard. You want to reach out to the candidates, let them know what's the biggest issues in your community, whether it's youth justice, immigration, racial equity, restorative justice, police accountability. You want to share those things with the candidates right now, because they want your vote. And it's super important to get out to vote. We're not going to tell you who to vote for, but we want you to vote, because if your voice is not heard, someone's going to make a decision for you. So I'd much rather you be involved in the process instead of letting someone else dictate what's going to be happening to you and your communities.
Okay, so let me tie all this together. Let me see if I can do that. Okay. And then we need to dive into why this conversation is so important today to be had. So I want to tie in here our youth and the impact that our youth have, the power that the district attorney has to influence, to give second chances, to determine who is and is not the criminal in the eyes of the court system, to hold accountable officers of the law that violate the law. So there's so many factors here. It's an elected seat where the people in the community get to vote who it is going to represent them and that upholds best their self-interest. And the people that actually don't engage in the vote are the ones that are lining the walls of our penal system. The ones that don't engage in the vote are the ones that are deemed in the eyes of society as the criminal. And they actually have a voice. They have a right to vote. So so you said that there is that this election in the San Joaquin County, our district attorney is going to be determined in the primary elections. Marshall, when is that?
Yes, so the primary elections are June 7th, coming up in a couple of months. And because there's only 2 candidates running in the primary elections in this county, that means whoever has the most votes after it's calculated for the June 7th, that individual is going to be the one who is your next district attorney. A lot of people think that the elections are in November. There are elections in November, but for this specific one, for the DA race, because there's only 2 candidates, whoever has the most votes will be your next district attorney starting January 1 of next year, 2023. So it's really important to spread the word. If you're watching now and you didn't know this, that's okay. You know it now. Spread the word. Let people know that your ballots will be coming soon. I believe May 9th, the ballots will be getting mailed out to you. There's going to be a plethora of different ballot measures and other things on the ballot. And definitely vote on that as well. But there's going to be a district attorney ballot that you can vote for. And I highly encourage you all to exercise your right to vote. And if you even need help and assistance knowing how to go through that process, feel free to contact myself, I'm sure Tony will be more than happy to help you, assist you through that process, because it can be a challenging task to try to understand, like, how do I know who to vote for? How do I know if they're actually in alignment with my interests? And sometimes the voting ballots use not simple language. That's the best way I could put it. Sometimes the language can be very challenging to understand. Sometimes they'll say something like, if you want to say yes to this, then vote no. And then you're like, wait, am I saying yes or am I saying no? So it can be an obstacle and challenging, but that's what we're here for. We're here to be a community for you all. So please contact us so that we can help walk you through any type of question that you may have, because you're important to us. We believe in you and we see you, and we really want you all to be involved in this primary election, June 7th.
I just dropped my email in the chat. Please feel free to email me. And I'm going to ask, that if you Marshall, you could drop your email, Miasotik, and we can, just to make sure that you guys have access and that that you can contact us. So I want to repeat this, and then I want to just lean in a little bit on what are some things that you can do in order to ensure that you understand or know the self-interest. One of the things that we do with Faith in the Valley is we do research. So we have candidates forums, and we train people on how to research. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and make it very clear. We did attempt to have a candidates forum. In order to have a candidates forum, you need to have at least 2 of the candidates that are running for that seat in order to have a nonpartisan candidates forum. Faith in the Valley is nonpartisan. So an unbiased platform, in order to hold an unbiased platform, you have to have, if there are, say, 3, 5 people running, you've got to have a minimum of 2. You need to have invited them all. And so we only have 2 district attorneys who are running in the San Joaquin County, and we, which is our incumbent district attorney, Miss Tori. Say it again, babe.
It's Tori Salazar.
Yes. Okay. Look, because I'm like, I never get the back end of the name right. I don't know whether to say Tori Verbers. Okay, so Tori Salazar. And then who is the individual that is running, also running for office for the seat of DA?
Ron Freitas.
So we did send invitations to both, and extended invitations to both. We made multiple attempts. On the first invitation, Tori, our incumbent district attorney, accepted the invitation to the candidates forum. Within that week, within that time frame, right away, stated when she would be available, all of that. We made 4 separate attempts in order to invite Ron Freitas to the candidates forum, and he didn't respond to any of those invitations. Now, why is that important for you to know? Because if we don't have, if he's not responding, then we can't give you a candidates forum, because we only had 2 candidates. And so that's one way that you are able to actually see if the interest, the self-interest of that candidate is in alignment with your interest as a community member. Candidates forum, typically, that's how that is handled. Now, since we weren't able to do that because we didn't have an individual that accepted it, then what we do is we give you tools in order to research who is backing the candidates, who is financially supporting the candidates, who are they actually in their self-interest aligned with. We look at their photos. We look at, We look at their history, things that they have supported before. And so, Ms. Sotik, I know that there were some things that you wanted to maybe add to that. And so you're more than welcome. Come off of mute and jump in to this.
I think I saw someone that you popped up on the chat. It said, how do you see like what kind of things that the district attorney is voting on? I think the ACLU has a website that could be helpful with some of that, which is meetyourda.org. And then you can see some of the props that, like, let's say our current DA has voted on or not voted on, things like that. And then it also tells you a little bit more of the roles of the DA. And so for Curtis, who is ignoring the community right now, it's the challenger for Tori Salazar, since he is not responding to these candidate forums, because that's the way that he's able to connect with the community, and they're not responding. And then at the same time, they are also being backed up by all of our law enforcement and probation offices. So that's just being more transparent on who is supporting these candidates. And I'm not sure if anyone wants to add more on that as well.
I think I'll just encourage people, the listeners, and I hope everybody here. Thank you, by the way, for everyone who's listening. I hope that you all can spread the word. I think it's important to do your own research and to find credible sources of information. I know that Faith in the Valley and the ACLU and myself would be happy to connect with anybody who would like information. You can also do some research online, look at their websites. Somebody commented in the chat to look at what they have voted on in the past, or try to see what these candidates have supported in the past, because it's easy to, like Marshall was saying, it's easy for them to say what they're going to do, but I think actions speak louder than words. So being able to look at their track record of things that they have done previously, I think can be very helpful. There's the comment.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Anything you want to add, Marshall, to that in regard to researching and just leaning into who is running for the seat of district attorney?
No, I think we covered it well.
Good stuff. So I want to reiterate here before we go. I want to make sure that we really, really drive home. The district attorney in San Joaquin County is going to be determined in the primary elections on June 7th. Who can vote on June 7th? Marshall, who has the right to vote on June 7th?
So you have to be at least 18 years of age. And then also a good website. I don't know if Tony dropped it in the chat already or not.
Not yet. I'm getting ready to pull it right now.
Okay. I believe it's registered.
18, if you're 18 and over, you can vote.
Yes.
Okay.
And I know Tony's going to drop in the chat, register2vote.ca.gov. And it's a really clean website that shows you how to register and who's eligible. And also, there's also a cool proposition that just been passed called Prop 17 that has allowed people that are on parole to vote. So I would look that up, community Proposition 17, and share with people that you may know who is on parole that may not know that their right to vote have been reinstated. It's a great opportunity to get engaged and to really be involved in that process. And I really encourage college students to get involved. Those that may have never voted before and this is your first time voting. So really spread the word to your high school seniors, spread the word to your college students, spread the word to every single person that you know, because your vote counts and your vote matters.
Man, So I want to make sure that I go back to Prop 17. If you were formerly incarcerated, and in fact, let me do this. In the San Joaquin County, we have over 1,500 individuals as of last year that are actively on parole. Over 1,500 just in the San Joaquin County. In most cases, someone's seat, an elected seat, is determined within a 500 vote. Within 500 votes, meaning that it would only take, some people win barely by just 500 people. I want to make sure I'm getting that clear. Am I making sense what I'm saying, y'all? That makes sense. 1,500 individuals are actively on parole, and you now, based on Prop 17, have the right to vote. And the district attorney is one of the most pertinent key seats that has impacted your life. You have self-interest if you are on parole. You have self-interest if you are formerly incarcerated. You have self-interest if you are Black. You have self-interest if you are Latinx. You have self-interest if you are undocumented and have documented family members that have the right to vote. I'm saying there's so many people in our community that have self-interest to vote during this election. We need you to get out to vote. We need you to make a determination on who best serves your interest and then make a vote. Otherwise, the people that drive the vote in the San Joaquin County are middle-aged white women that earn an income revenue in between the ages of, in between the revenue of 80,000 to 100K. I'm saying that from a person that does organizing, so I know those stats. Elections are determined by white women that are in a upper middle income. Don't want to say nothing derogatory. I'm going to say it like this for my millennials. Karen typically determines who it is that's going to win an election. Mia Sotek, why are you laughing at me? So I need you guys to get out to vote. There's a couple of more just really important things that you need to know. Your deadline to register. Marshall, can you kind of dig into that just a little bit? To help folks understand what is important about this deadline.
Yes, so you should see it on the screen. May 23rd is the deadline to register to vote. And I wouldn't wait until May 23rd. As soon as this is over, I recommend do it right away. It doesn't take long to register to vote. The website that Tony had dropped in the chat, registertovote.ca.gov, is a great website that shows you how to register to vote. It doesn't take long at all. And I care about you so much. If you need me to call you, to be on the phone, to help you through it, that's how important it is. I'm willing to do that for you. I'm sure Tony, Alejandra, Ms. Sodik, we're all willing to do that for you, to walk you through the process, be there as a listening ear, to walk you through how to register to vote. But the thing is, if you miss that May 23rd deadline, you're missing out on a great opportunity to be involved. Mm-hmm. The way I like to think about it is there's no harm in voting, but there's a big, big harm in not having your voice heard. There's a lot that can go wrong if your voice is not heard. But just taking 20 to 30 minutes out of your day to register, and then maybe another 30 minutes to research who it is you want to cast your vote on, that hour time span to make your voice heard is going to be so impactful, and you lose nothing by doing it. But on the alternative, if you decide not to vote, there's a lot at stake. Youth justice, protecting our immigrant communities, racial equity, restorative justice, police accountability, over mass incarceration. All those things are at stake if you decide to sit this one out. So please join in and register to vote, because you matter, your voice matter, and your impact is there.
Yeah. And so as we're wrapping up this conversation, Alejandra, is there anything else that you would like to add or just, elaborate on?
Marshall just dropped the mic. I have nothing else to add. I think he summed it all up. There's a lot at stake here. Again, do your research, reach out, ask questions, get involved too, because it doesn't end at the election. The election is huge, but there is still a lot of work to do after that. So get involved with an organization that is doing some of this work and reach out if you have any questions. The first step is just being here, informing yourself. So I do thank the viewers for joining us. And again, I think Marshall summed it all up very beautifully.
So before we leave, I have a special guest that stepped out of training just to come into this conversation because it is so important that we lean into this. So Michael, thank you for coming in. You want to introduce yourself real quick just to our viewers?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me, Tony. And my name is Michael Baldwin, and I do a lot of different things, but today I happen to be doing a training for law enforcement officers and community members. We have a room full of police officers and a room full of community members, and they're engaged in open, honest dialogue about race, about racism, about crime, about justice, about perception, about influence, about trauma, about drama, you name it, we're talking about it. And I just felt like this conversation was an important enough conversation for me to work things out to where I can step out for a second and really say a couple of things. Someone said that Marshall summed it up. I'd love to hear what Marshall said.
So what Marshall just really summed up just the importance of our community that is most impacted by the role and the power of a district attorney to get engaged in the vote. The primary election in the San Joaquin County, Michael, is going to determine who our next district attorney is. And so what I would like for you to do, if you could, we've talked about our youth and the impact that it has on our youth. We've talked about our Latina community, undocumented, and the role of the DA when it comes to immigration and all these different things. For you were formerly incarcerated. And I don't want to tell your story because I know that you can actually just kind of sum that up. I want
Absolutely.
You as somebody that has been directly impacted, tell us why it is important for those that now have the right to vote through Prop 17 to get engaged in this.
So I'm going to tell you, first, I appreciate that summation. And I served 26 years, 7 months, and 17 days in prison for a crime that I did commit. However, at no point in my adjudication of my commitment offense was anything factored in dealing with my childhood trauma or the influences that had shaped my life. At no point did the DA or the district attorney consider my social economic status and how I had been cultivated by my community and by my environment to become an inmate one day. It was almost like that just was not a piece of information that was even considered. I think that it is critical for those of us who are formerly incarcerated to get involved in voting, in exercising the right to choose, to exercising the right to have a voice. I think that by doing so, we help to shift the narrative and to hold all parties accountable in the process of our criminal justice system. We all know that criminal justice reform is a necessary thing that has to happen, but it cannot be reformed unless those who are, all of the parties are at the table. And the only way we can get to the table is if we exercise our power to vote. And so if we don't exercise our power and our ability to vote, then it doesn't matter if they have allowed us at the table. We're not taking a seat at the table. And so I believe that we get a chance to have a say in those that will adjudicate our children, our children's children, and who will hold them to account. But we want to make sure that we have people in those positions who will hold themselves accountable and that can hold all parties accountable in our community. We cannot have a DA that only holds community members or Black and brown community members accountable and won't hold our law enforcement accountable, won't hold our elected officials accountable. We want to make sure that we raise our We raise Black and brown individuals to want to be DAs themselves, right? So we're not. I don't personally believe that you want a DA that's going to just let just. I didn't want nobody to slap me on the hand. I needed to be held accountable. There was a time in my life when I was reckless and I was dangerous and I needed to be removed from the community. But I didn't need a double life sentence, and it was my first time offense. I didn't need an opportunity for someone to think that they were killing me by sentencing me, because that was in fact what the goal was. We need DAs who have a heart of compassion and who lean towards restorative justice, who lean towards restoring an individual, because crime happens as a result of severed relationships. And so justice, if it doesn't restore relationships, it's not justice at all. And so if we have DAs who don't have this in their mind, who don't understand human behavior, then they will just be thinking that they're putting bad people in prison. I was a hurting person who needed to get to my healing, and they didn't see it that way. And so as a result, I was sentenced, and many like me were sentenced to forever. And I had crime partners who were Caucasian, and they weren't sentenced the same way that I was. And they had extensive criminal histories. And I'm not saying that I needed to be taking, a lenient sentence or anything like that. But I was not sentenced according to the crime I committed. I was sentenced according to my ethnicity, and they were sentenced according to their ethnicity. And so we have to look deeper into the person that's running for DA. Look at some of the cases that they've already made decisions on. Look at some of the cases that they've already fought to adjudicate. And, a leopard doesn't change its stripes. And so if we see smoke in those situations, then chances are there's a reason for that. And we don't want to exercise our vote towards those individuals. And we need them to know that we have the right to vote, because that will allow for them to have to come and talk to us. We want them to have to come and talk to us. And if we don't exercise our vote, then they don't come and talk to us. They don't come and exercise some of their decisions according to what is best for us. All right. They won't exercise decisions that are in our best interest. They will continue to placate to a certain demographic that they recognize that they need their votes from. Because face it, some people don't care about the issue. They care about being reelected. All right. That's the goal of a politician. And those positions are political positions because they're voted in positions. So sometimes individuals sacrifice their own values to be elected. Right. What we want to do is to make sure we find some people who live based on value first, and then promote them and help them get into those positions so that they can help make our community safe, but also humane. When I went to prison, I was stripped of my dignity with the way that I was sentenced. With the way that I was sentenced, I was stripped of my dignity. I had to go and fight to reclaim my dignity. And by the grace of God, I'm back here and I'm able to serve my community, and I'm able to conserve my community in a very effective way. And now we all have a chance to have a say, and not only our DAs, but our school board members, our mayors, our city council members. All of these positions of responsibility are the key ingredients to whether or not we get certain things happening in our community. And we have a say in it. So I think it's so important for us to exercise that say. And I thank you for allowing me to have an input in this conversation.
Whew, okay. Well, man, okay. When I say, look, you said mic drop, Alejandra, between Michael and Marshall, I think that has said it all. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put these dates back up, you guys. I want you guys to remember. Oh, Michael, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate you. Have a great day.
All right. You too.
Man, I think that said it all. Yeah, I mean, where you at, Alejandra, Miosotik, Marshall?
That just shows why it's so important to have those directly affected to have a voice and to inform us and the voters about these realities. So I really do appreciate that Michael was able to join us.
Stripped of his dignity. Man, a double life sentence First crime ever. And so there was so much, all of this just ties all back together to where we started in regard to the youth and how important it is for us to see our youth in their formative years and see the bigger picture. So I don't want to belabor this. I really don't. We are coming to time, and what I want to do is just to make sure that you all know I have dropped in the chat several resources. You all have dropped in the chat a link that tells you how to register. So www dot what is it? Vote.org. I've dropped in the chat information, you all, in regard to getting a voter's guide. All you got to do, click it, put in your zip code and your address, and they will send you a voter's guide. You'll be able to download it according to the area that you are in. I dropped in the chat information in regard specifically to the San Joaquin County voter registrar. So you have access to all that information. You all, I've given you my email, my work email, Marshall's email, Mia Sotik's email. You have everything that you could possibly need in order to access and to get the information. What do we need? We need you to share this video. We need you to share this video, share this information. We need you to vote. The primary election is June the 7th. That's going to determine who our next district attorney is going to be. We need you to do the research. Know who is funding. Know who is backing and supporting. Know what it is that is on their agenda. Know what their self-interest is. We need you to make sure that if you are formerly incarcerated and that you are on parole, we need you to vote. We need you to register. The deadline to register is May 23rd. Tony, what if I missed that deadline? Then show up on June the 7th and vote. You can still register the day of. They'll have to, it's an absentee ballot. But we still need you to vote. What we need you to not do is not vote. Don't, the last thing, that's not an option. Not voting is not an option. So we're going to be sharing multiple streams of information. We're going to be sharing images, all kind of reminders. On the 28th, you guys anyone want to lift up our event for the 28th and what we're doing?
Sure, I could jump in.
Thanks, Marshall.
So on April 28th, I believe we have a 6 p.m. tentative time set where we're going to further this conversation. Today was more so about just uplifting the overall importance of the elections. But this April 28th event, we're going to dive deeper into the issues that we talked about today, whether it's youth justice, racial equity, restorative justice, police accountability, mass incarceration, mental illness and substance abuse, and how those topics, how the DAs can influence those policy issues. So we're going to do a deeper dive on that. We're going to have formerly incarcerated community members on the panel. We're going to have these great community members here on the panel. We're going to also have subject matter experts from those different topics that we discussed today. Immigration as well. I forgot to mention immigration, how the DAs have influence over immigrant communities. So please come join us April 28th at 6 p.m. It's going to be via Zoom. We would love for you to be there. It will be live streamed and broadcast and recorded. And just another opportunity to educate yourself further. Malcolm X is quoted as saying, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the ones that prepare for it today. So it's just another opportunity to educate yourself, to understand the importance of the issues, and to be able to just express your right to vote. And we want to hear from you too. We're not just going to be on the panel talk. We want to hear from you. So send in questions early to Tony and Faith in the Valley of what you want to learn more about. Is there anything today that we were missing? We want to hear from you. It's going to be a conversation. It's going to be collaborative. It's going to be community engaged. So think of it more as we're all in this together, learning and trying to understand what the DA's influence are. So come out. I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to April 28th at 6 p.m.
I'll be sharing that event early in the week, next week, and you can register for it. It won't be a webinar. There might be pieces where we do go live. However, before we do any of that, it's an intimate space where community gets to come in, and we're just going to chop it up in regard to what's the role of the DA, how it impacts us individually and personally. And we want to do some real thoughtful listening and have some real intentional dialogue surrounding your concerns and ways that you can actually connect with your DA, the incumbent and the person who is running, in order to broaden your understanding. So is there anything else that you want to wrap up and end with, Alejandra or Miosoti? No, we're good?
See you on April 28th.
See you on April 28th. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time out to join us today. I want to thank the individuals that I have the privilege and honor of sitting in this space with, and all that you have brought. And I want you guys to have a wonderful weekend. And please remember, you've got to get out to vote. Share this video, share this information, hold everyone accountable. If you have served time and you have loved ones, tell them to vote. You vote and you tell them to vote. This is too important for you to ignore and to sit idly by. All right, y'all. Y'all know I love you. Peace and blessings. Have a wonderful weekend.